redeemed, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Monday edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. I got a great show lined up for you today, guys. You don't know what I go through for you, these formerly fingerprinted fingertips. Just at the last minute, we had a guest cancellation. So I worked together to bring you a new show in a span of a very short period of time, but it is still going to be exceptionally great. Your tall, dark, handsome, lovable, and extremely humble host have worked hard to bring you a podcast, a fresh podcast, despite being canceled on. Gabe, that doesn't happen anywhere. Nobody works as hard as me to bring my... Thank you. I really do appreciate that. I'm trying to stay humble, Gabe, so just be quiet in the background there. But anyway, guys, I got a jam-packed show for you today. 5 reasons why Joe Biden could lose in 2024. You're going to want to stay tuned for this. Plus, I'll bring you some of the latest news or some of the latest headlines today. This is a Carl Jackson Show. Stay tuned for some quick program messaging. All right, guys, welcome back. Listen, several places to go. I need you to go to help me expand my reach, if you will. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. Please subscribe. It'll go right to your inbox. Also, if you like viewing the podcast, you can go to our YouTube channel, The Carl Jackson Show on YouTube, or you can go to our Rumble channel. And let me just say this about Rumble. When we cover controversial issues that the left deem controversial anyway, you can always find it on the free speech platform, rumble.com, The Carl Jackson Show. Please follow me on social media, all things social media. Carl Jackson Show is where you can, or The Carl Jackson Show is where you can find me. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Getter, True Social. That is where you can find me. Today's show is brought to you in part by Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold Group. Former President Trump recently issued a warning from Mar-a-Lago. Here's what he said. Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years. He's absolutely right. If our money is bad, we're going to have a hard time defending this nation. Some experts believe there are serious threats to the future value of the U.S. dollar because of inflation, deficit spending, and our increasing national debt that's over $31 trillion. One asset that has withstood famine, wars, and economic upheaval dating back all the way to biblical times is gold. And you can own it in a tax-sheltered retirement account with the help of Birch Gold. All right, so Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or your 401k, maybe from a previous employer even, into an IRA in gold. And the best part, you don't have to pay a penny out of your pocket. All you have to do is text Carl to 989898 and claim your free info kit on gold. All right. Think about this. In March of this year, when the banks faltered, the stock market faltered, and gold surged. Birch Gold can help you find out how to protect your savings with gold. Again, Birch Gold Group can help you find out how to protect your savings with gold. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of happy customers. All you have to do is text my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, to 989898, and you'll get your free info kit on gold. Again, text my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, to 989898. Okay, I want to get into the story of the day, and I'm going to bring you, actually, one of the headlines I do need to bring you pretty quickly because Biden is sinking in the polls. Guys, listen, polls are fun. I'm just, listen, when you come to this podcast, I'm going to be a straight shooter with you. I think you will hear some things on this podcast that you may not hear anywhere else. I am not going to blow smoke up your butt. I refuse to. I think winning in 2024 is going to be an uphill battle. However, saying that, I do believe that it's possible, but we've got to get to work. I don't want you to be discouraged. There's plenty of issues out there that we can talk about. And in fact, I will talk about some with guests that'll be on this week, hurdles that we'll have to overcome as constitutionalists, as conservatives, as Republicans that don't want to see this. And I would say liberal Democrats Liberal Democrats, you got a candidate in Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that your team, the Democrats, are trying to sideline and trying to censor and silence. Make sure you go support that man. I listen. You guys know that I'm obviously I'm not a Democrat, right? I'm not a liberal, but I appreciate honest brokers on both sides, so we can have I believe in civics and civility. We can have discussions and disagreements with people that are liberal Democrats and be absolutely fine. We should have healthy debate in this country. So you guys make out, I can't believe I'm doing this, Gabe, but I'm trying to save the country. I think that Robert F. Kennedy should be supported by the Democrat Party if you want to break free from these radical lefties. Having said that, it is likely that Joe Biden, regardless of how you may feel or believe, it is likely that Joe Biden is going to be the nominee. He is the incumbent president. His ability to network and raise money will be, it won't be matched. No one can match it. I don't care who jumps in the race right now. The power of incumbency is just too large in many cases to overcome, despite the fact that we have a dementia patient in the White House. So I want you to be very, very aware of that. But if Joe Biden is the nominee, and some of you are out there thinking, hey, listen, we can't win with Trump or whatever. I'm telling you, I think that we can win even with a generic candidate. I would prefer it be Trump. My second choice would be Governor Ron DeSantis. I'm not going to hate on Governor Ron DeSantis. I hear enough conservatives out there doing that. I think that is silly. I think that even if Trump were to win the nomination, we shouldn't destroy the guy that's obviously the second best option that we have. It's just absolutely asinine to me that Republicans would do this. The Republican Party, we eat our own. The Democrat Party, they lose an election. They're already figuring out how to win leading up to midterms or during off-year elections and how to set up their next candidate. We don't do that. We just destroy our own. So please stop doing that. All right. Please stop doing that. Whatever you feel about Trump, whatever you feel about DeSantis, let's not eat our own, the best of the best that we have to offer. Now, having said that, let me get into this. Let me get into this story. And I told you that I would bring you one of the headlines. We also have a video for you that we will be playing in the podcast of something that transpired over the weekend in New York City. Obviously, you guys are aware of the shooting that occurred, I'm sure in Allen, Texas, at an outdoor mall area, 120 shops. I'll bring you that news if you hadn't heard about it. And all I would say to that is, guys, always be prepared. If you move to a state where you can be prepared, and when I say prepared, a state that will allow you to carry and to defend yourself. Obviously, Texas is one of them. And with a lot of freedom, listen, there's no doubt about it. With a lot of freedom, comes responsibility. And I believe with the freedoms that we've been granted in the United States, I think that people should carry, frankly, because you never know when you're going to encounter a mass murderer like people did in Texas, a place that is, for the most part, gun friendly. So anyway, we'll talk about that. But two items that you should be aware of in the headlines, I think, before I get into the crux of this story, 5 reasons why Biden might lose in 2024. And I want to say this, guys. There are a couple of writers that I respect on the left. Listen, I disagree with their views on politics, but I've told you before, there's this guy, he has a Substack. He used to work under the Obama. Actually, there are 2 of them. They used to work under the Obama administration. One is David Axelrod. I totally disagree with him on politics for the most part. I'm sure we probably disagree on 70 to 80% of issues, or at least 50% on most issues. Let's put it that way. There's another guy, a Latino guy, a guy by the name of, I don't know if you pronounce his name Ruy, but Ruy Texeira. And I often read his columns because I want to know, or his Substack, because I want to know what the left is thinking. And these guys were, they're not just analysts. They were literally in the, worked with the Obama administration. They were strategists. They knew what to do to win and to advance left-wing causes. Where Ruy Texeira messed up is he thought the Democrat Party would be able to count on the Latino vote to carry the Democrat Party for God knows how long. That has not worked. Trump came in 2016 and busted that all up. He's come out and he's an honest broker and admitted he was completely wrong because he didn't realize, he didn't take into account that Latinos would turn back to traditional values. And they were working class people. All right. So working class issues propelled or helped Trump win a lot of the Latino vote in 2016, a lot of these Latino and traditional values. And so a lot of Latinos that were once Democrats saw how far left the Democrat Party was going and were like, whoa, this is too far for us. We have traditional values. Now we more closely align with the Republican Party. So having said that, listen, here's one of the issues or one of the headlines on the tip sheet today. This from the Washington Post. Not exactly a conservative outlet, obviously. It's a left-wing outlet, not even a liberal. Washington Post is left-wing now, all right? Let's face it. Biden approval rating reaches lowest of his presidency. All right, so that's the first headline. As he begins his campaign for re-election, and I'm going to tie it into today's show, 5 reasons why Biden might lose in 2024. I'll give it a new title because this is Ruy Texeira's title. But I want you to know what the left is thinking and what they are concerned about behind the scenes. All right. So Biden approval rating reaches lowest of his presidency. Got to take a swig here. Forgive me. I was all hydrated, Gabe. And then when I went to go do some more brilliant research, when I found out last minute, guys, literally last minute, that the guest had canceled, I was like, what am I going to do? I've got to bring my people the news. So between that time, Gabe, I started munching on some serious salty chips, tortilla chips. All right. So that got my throat a little dry. So I may have to take a couple of swigs, but this is real life. So just bear with me. All right. So the first headline, Biden approval rating reaches lowest of his presidency. All right. So it says here, as he begins his campaign for re-election, Biden faces substantial and multiple challenges. This, according to the Washington Post and ABC News survey, his overall approval ratings have slipped to a new low. All right. So more Americans than not doubt his mental acuity. So one, his approval rating has slipped to a new low. All right. Now more Americans are saying, wait a minute, there's something wrong with this guy. More people are starting to recognize, for whatever reason, a lot of people, you and I take for granted that because we listen to politics and consume politics so frequently, everyone else does. And that is simply not the case. Ask anyone in my family. That's just not the case. So, you know, we take this stuff for granted. But a lot of people are starting to wake up to the fact, or starting to pay attention a little bit to politics. And they're like, whoa, this guy isn't all there. Also, his support against leading Republican challengers is far shakier, according to the Washington Post, at this point 4 years ago. So Biden's overall job approval rating now stands at 36%, and that's down from 42% in February. So just 3 months ago, he was 6 points higher. I'm going to bring this in full circle when I get into 5 reasons why he could lose the election. Let me just go ahead and do this. Let me just go through the headlines, and then we'll just finish up with this. So, all right. So let me, it'll be easier to do it that way. Okay. Another headline that I wanted to talk about: the El Paso in crisis as migrants overflow into the border city. Blocks and blocks, this from Town Hall. Blocks and blocks around Sacred Heart Church have once again turned into a makeshift camp for processed and released migrants. This, according to Julio Rosas of Town Hall. Mostly illegal migrants, let me add, mostly Venezuelans, because they have nowhere to go after being freed by Border Patrol agents, as the El Paso sector is experiencing a crushing influx of illegal crossings before Title 42 is removed. So Title 42 will be removed this week. I forget which day. I don't know if it's Tuesday, Thursday. I believe one of the two. Title 42, as you guys may recall, was put into place by the Trump administration during COVID, so that anyone could be rejected or turn around at the border if they suspected them of being ill, of COVID, or anything else, frankly, for that matter. But it was a tool to deter a lot of illegal immigrants from coming into our country at the time. And that, along with the Remain in Mexico City policy, where people couldn't come to the United States and get amnesty essentially granted to them, or make it into the interior of the United States, whatever country they went to first, which is actually which is actually immigration law. Whatever country they went to first, that's where they had to apply for citizenship, I believe it was, or for asylum. It was for asylum. I'm sorry, not for citizenship, but for asylum. So that disincentivized a lot of people from wanting to come to the United States, because if they're coming from some third world country and they're like, well, crap, if I have to go to another third world country and stop there, you know what I mean, in order to get asylum, I'm not going to risk taking this trek, paying these smugglers this money and all this kind of stuff if I don't even make it to the United States of America. So that is coming to an end. Many people are well aware of that, and many illegals are well aware of that. So they're taking advantage of the system. The size and conditions of the camp are much worse than the ones that popped up during the surge that occurred in December of 2022. So the camps are getting nastier. Obviously, people are sleeping out like homeless people coming across the border. Obviously, I mean, could you imagine the smell? People aren't going to be able to shower all the time. Where are they going to go to relieve themselves? You know, a lot of stuff is going on. He says the silver lining is people today do not have to endure below freezing nights like the ones who crossed in Texas did last year. So that's even more reasons for people to flood the zone now. They don't have to worry about the cold weather. Local shelters have once again been forced to prioritize women and children, leaving many others on the street to fend for themselves. That means men. That means young men, people. A law enforcement source told me their last estimate put the number of homeless migrants around 2,500, spread out for blocks near the El Paso del Norte port of entry. This, according to, again, Julio Rosas. All right, now, another headline. I mentioned the Texas shooter. This was a guy by the name of Mauricio Garcia. I guess they're claiming that he's a white supremacist. Whenever I hear the term white supremacist, I'm skeptical nowadays, especially with a name like Mauricio Garcia. I want to know if he's an illegal alien. But apparently right now they're claiming that he's not. Allegedly, he's a white supremacist. So it looks like he killed 33-year-old who investigators believe may have been a white supremacist who followed extremist ideologies, killed 8 people, including children, before he was shot dead himself at Allen Premium Outlets on May 6th. The killer fired more than 100 times during his rampage. He had more ammunition and weapons in his car. Apparently, he had an AR-15 and a handgun on him, and he was stopped by a police officer. Thank God for our police officers. That's going to come into play in this podcast, too. So he was stopped by police officers. Wouldn't it have been nice if someone that was at that mall would have had some type of weapon to stop him even sooner? And obviously, I'm not blaming anyone. It is a sad state of affairs, but we live in very evil times. And one of the things that can protect you from shooters, nothing else can protect you from a shooter except prayer, a miracle from God, and a bullet. All right. And another bullet. All right. Your gun dislodging a bullet to basically eliminate the threat. All right. Another headline. President Biden on Hunter, my son's done nothing wrong. I trust him. Of course, President Biden would have to say that his son has done nothing wrong because he's being implicated. We've known this for quite some time, Tony Bobolinsky, but all of this stuff is starting to come to fruition between investigations with the House Oversight Committee and with James Comer, investigations that Representative Jim Jordan is doing, also Senators Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson. We're starting to find out that there are actual, or at least allegedly, memos and documents that exist that proves Joe Biden's business relationship with his son, Hunter Biden. Why else would anyone give a crackhead the ability to make money unless he was tied to a president or vice president, is what we've found out too. while Joe Biden was vice president. All right. Another headline that I think is very important in the news. All right. Jim Jordan scrutinizes subpoenas the Global Alliance for Responsible Media, the World Economic Forum, for making ads aimed at suppressing speech. I'm so tired of these outside entities, these godless people that want to control the world. They think they're in an Austin Powers movie or something like, we're going to control the world. These people are creepy. They're evil. They're godless. But the House Judiciary Committee, under the leadership of Jim Jordan, issued subpoenas on Thursday to look into an advertising project that includes the World Economic Forum, which claims to be fighting against, quote unquote, harmful online content. Harmful online content, I'm sure, by the Economic Forum, I'm sure they mean that it's content that where people speak badly about them. Jordan writes that the House Judiciary Committee has sought documents and communications, quote, related to how GARM and WFA act to demonetize and eliminate disfavored content online, in addition to other information, ever since March of this year. So these people are working in overtime. They do not want to be found out. That's probably something I'm going to look more into the World Economic Forum. Obviously, this is kind of stuff I love, but we'll talk about this on a later date. I just wanted to make sure that I got the headline to you and at least make mention of it before I bring you more news during the week. Here's another story. Gabe, actually, let's do this because I'm going to opine on this one really quick. The New York City protesters flooded the subway system over the weekend. We're going to play some video, and then I'm going to just comment on the video real quick, and then we'll close out what the 5 reasons why Biden might lose in 2024. A lot of people speculating that if Trump is the nominee, Trump will be the likely nominee, that Biden could win Trump because of his disfavorables and because of everything that they're throwing at Trump and all this kind of stuff. But Trump is a known quantity, and this is a very bad assumption by the left. But anyway, before we talk about that, I want to before we talk about that, I want to go to this video, the New York City subway. But before we do that, Gabe, let me first remind people of MyPillow. MyPillow.com. Mike Lindell has built a fabulous business at MyPillow.com. American jobs, American manufacturing, and American products. Well, the latest thing is there's an exclusive offer for my listeners, the new MyPillow 2.0. If you can believe it, it's better than the original MyPillow. It comes with the same patented adjusted feel on the inside, but now on the outside, there's a temperature regulating thread that wraps around the pillow to make it softer, to make it smoother, to make it cooler, so you get an even better night's rest. If you want to take advantage of the deal, all right, go to mypillow.com. Your buy one, get one free. That's the F word. Buy one, get one free. MyPillow. Go to mypillow.com. Click on the radio listener square at the top of the page. Enter my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, and you will get your offer, buy one, get one free. Or if you prefer, you can give them a call, 800-858-0263. Again, that number, 800-858-0263. Give them my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, to get your buy one, get one free offer that's exclusive to my listeners here at the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Also, subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. Por favor, find me on social media. The Carl Jackson Show is where I am on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Getter, Truth Social, The Carl Jackson Show. Please find me there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel or our Rumble channel, or both, if you like, if you want to hear the podcast and watch the video. The Carl Jackson Show on YouTube and Rumble is where you can find us. Now, having said that, Gabe, let's go ahead and play the video. And honestly, there was much more video, but this video kind of sums up a lot of the things that were going on in New York City as people were protesting the death of Jordan Neely, who was frankly, listen, the guy apparently had mental health issues, but the guy had been arrested literally dozens of times. He had done some crazy crimes, violent and all. And this day he was having an episode on the train where he was threatening and he was menacing. You had a young former Marine that put a I guess a rear naked choke on him, but he didn't necessarily choke him out. Dan Bongino was talking about this. I did jiu-jitsu back in the day. It was obvious to me that the guy was just trying to subdue him and not choke him out per se, because the guy, Jordan Neely, was, squealing, for lack of a better word, on the bottom, but not dead, not choked out. Another passenger or two were trying to help subdue him, but you had the young former Marine that was on the bottom of him, trying to subdue him, obviously, until help came. Now the left is trying to go after him because New York City leaders, the leadership, and Mayor Adams weren't Mayor Adams, the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, and the New York City Mayor weren't doing this job. Without any further ado, Gabe, let's go ahead and roll this video. Por favor.
Look at me. With additional flying. You got away? You got away! Get back! J-Rod, breathe! Get back, free! Hey! Stop resisting! I'm calling the cops! Get the name. They didn't want me to get the name.
Okay, so here's what I want to bring to your attention. Several things that were going on there. There were plenty of videos out there, but what we tried to do is bring you a video of protests that were going on outside of the subway, within and also within the subway. But I want you to understand this about Jordan Neely's death. First off, it's a failure of leadership in New York City. If Alvin Bragg wasn't soft on crime, if Mayor Eric Adams wasn't weak and beholden to the left, if the nanny of New York, or the so-called governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, wasn't weak herself and a far left-wing loony, I believe Jordan Neely would be alive. The second thing I want to bring to your attention is, doesn't that look like Gotham City? Seriously, doesn't that look like Gotham City? Guys, move out of New York City. Get out of there. And if you leave, do not come to a place like my home here in Central Florida and vote Democrat again. This is what Democrat cities are going to look like without leadership. These people had no respect for authority. They had no respect for law enforcement. And if they're that uncivilized when it comes to law enforcement, if they'll do that to law enforcement, what the hell do you think they'll do to you on the street? Another thing that I want to bring to your attention, there's no respect for the working class. This happened on the weekend, but there's still people that work, obviously, in New York City over the weekend. So these disruptive, these unproductive citizens were slowing down the work of the productive citizens. And not only that, small businesses that could be hurting as a result of these protests and these people standing in front of subway trains and slowing them down. Several things to contemplate. Or, families that are wanting to go out and just patron, businesses over the weekend, go have a nice weekend out. These people are ruining that. Get out of these cities. All right. Now, that's all I have to say about that. Now, real quickly, 5 reasons why Biden might lose in 2024. I'm going to just go through the reasons real quickly, or outline them, and then just go through them quickly in quick detail, if you will. Number 1, Biden really is an extraordinarily weak candidate. That's the first reason. Number 2, Trump may be a stronger opponent than Democrats expect. Number 3, Biden and Democrats have not moved to the center on cultural issues. This guy, Ruy Texeira, was a part of the Obama administration, and said these are issues that the left has to be aware of and concerned about going into 2024. Number 4, Abortion may not be the silver bullet many Democrats assume it will be in 2024. Guys, I've been telling you this all along. I don't think it was as big of an issue in 2022 as even frankly, many conservatives are still believe it is. What was an issue was ballot chasing in 2022, micro targeting on college campuses or wherever Democrats needed to go to get their vote. Rile people up in anger and then say, oh, this person, it has not voted or, whatever. We're going to go find this person, micro target this person. Susie is real pissed off about abortion, but she hasn't voted yet. Let's go find her. She goes to this college and get her to vote. It was organization. It was get out the vote efforts. It was ballot chasing. That is what won 2022. And you have a lot of conservatives that don't realize that as of yet. Also, number 5, he says there's a working class sized hole in Biden's reelection strategy. There was another column that I was reading over the weekend, and the guy admitted it. I won't go into great detail, but the column was entitled "Biden versus Biden," and I was like, this is a very interesting column. It was written by a guy by the name of Robert Kuttner from the American Prospect, and the guy is a big time. A guy's a big time liberal. I mean, he spends half the article buttering Biden up, but he says there are really 2 Joe Bidens. One is Biden, the administration. The policy people are excellent, and the political operators are more than good enough. The speechwriters and makers of TV spots, as we've seen in the past. He talks about the Biden administration, Biden just being the face of the Biden administration. So he's admitting what we all know. But then he talks about how there's a different Biden. There's Biden that seems to be old and slowing down, doesn't seem to always be on top of issues, so on, et cetera. So he talks about Biden versus Biden, the mental acuity, the age versus the Biden that is putting good policies. And this guy really butters him up, all right? But the name of that column, again, it was from the American Prospect, Biden versus Biden. I honestly clicked on it because I thought it was an interesting title. I thought it was going to be a conservative column. It was not. Very left wing, but honestly, very informative as well. All right, now getting back to the 5 reasons why Biden might lose in 2020. Again, the first reason, Biden really is an extraordinarily weak candidate. I just told you that his overall job approval rating has actually dropped from 42% in February to 36%. So more people are just like, oh my God, this guy just absolutely sucks. That doesn't bode well. I do want to caution conservatives. We act as if that's going to stick all the way through 2024. That it may or it may not. There are going to be a lot of things that take place between now and November of 2024. But I want to make sure I get, Biden's overall job approval rating. That's right. All right. So it dropped from 42% in February to 36%. This is very crucial. Here's why. His approval rating has been in the low 40s seemingly forever, writes this guy, Ruy Texeira. So he says right now it stands at 43% in the 538 rolling average. So that's the rolling average. All right. So that isn't, accounting for this new, I think, Wall Street Journal ABC poll, or is it WAPO? No, it's a Washington Post ABC poll. All right. But his rolling average is in the 43% range, at least according to 538, that I don't really trust anymore. But anyway, that's what they're trying to be more reasonable and accurate because they've been a disaster over the last several years. Now, here's what he says. Here's the concern. Again, the first issue, Biden really is a weak, extraordinarily weak candidate. He said, generally, presidents get pretty close to their approval rating and voting support. So if Biden's approval rating is 36%, if Biden's approval rating is 43%, all right. He says the last 3, he's going to have a hard time getting reelected. The last 3 incumbent presidents, Bush, Obama, and Trump, got only 1 to 2 points higher support than their approval rating at the time of the election. So if Biden is polling, you know what I mean, in the 40s, and his ratings don't go up closer to election day, he could be hurting for certain. Now, he does say, of course, his approval rating could improve by election day. This does happen. But in the 2000s, the pattern for incumbents has either been decline or a very modest gain from this point in the election cycle. He says the best performer was Obama, whose approval rating went up over 4 points. Even if Biden gets that level of improvement, which I doubt that he will, but even if Biden gets that level of improvement and then a slight bump above his approval rating on election day, he's still in dangerous territory. A president who was barely elected with 51% of the vote. And remember, he didn't have to campaign. COVID was going on, right? And then you had all of these people, these lawyers on the Democrat side that went to judges, so on, et cetera. The Republican Party and the Trump administration was caught sleeping. They were able to kind of change the way that, or not kind of, change the way that we voted for COVID. And we were caught with our pants down as conservatives. All right. And it definitely hurt us. So he says, but he was still able to get elected with 51% of the popular vote. And he would have a hard time weathering a decline to 48 to 49% of the vote. Now, don't get upset with me by some of the stuff that I'm saying here. I'm telling you what a very good Democrat strategist is saying. This is very, very important. They are concerned. Again, the first reason why he believes that Biden might lose in 2024 is Biden is really an extraordinarily weak candidate. Number two, he says that Trump might be a stronger opponent than Democrats expect. Of course, he says that Trump comes with his baggage. He talks about the incessant dwelling. And again, this is a left-wing strategist. Actually, he's a liberal. I would have called him left wing several years ago. Now, in comparison, he's liberal, but I'll still say left wing because I like to frame the left. I don't like them to frame me. So I'm going to say a left wing. All right. So left wing guy. He says, despite Trump's baggage, including the 2020 election stuff, that stuff would typically weaken him as an opponent. But he said, but consider some uncomfortable facts. He's warning Democrats, in other words, Trump is a point ahead of Biden in the Real Clear Politics rolling average. I do want to say this. I want to make mention of this. He's just assuming, and he makes mention of this at the beginning. He believes, too, that there's still a lot of time that Trump will likely be the nominee, but it isn't a given, despite all the polls that you're hearing right now. And guys, don't hate on me. I'm just telling you the truth. All right. Nothing is a given. All right. So we're still a long ways away. Some of you guys might remember that Trump didn't announce until 2015 or until the summer nearly of 2015. So a lot of people that are assuming, I think it'll be Trump. All right. But I'm just assuming. All right. None of us know. Despite what the headlines, despite what the polls are saying right now, we are way too far out. All right. But anyway, so he wrote the column as if Trump is going to be the nominee and if Biden is going to be the nominee. So let me just make sure that I mention that. So, all right, the number two reason Biden could lose is Trump may be a stronger opponent than people think. He considers the baggage. He considers people wanting to move on from 2020. But this stuff hasn't necessarily weakened Trump like the left thought. He says Trump is at a point ahead of Biden in the Real Clear Politics rolling average, which is completely scary to him. Now, I got to say this. I love Real Clear Politics, and they have done a fabulous job of getting all of these polls together and kind of averaging them out. We were way off they were way off in 2022. So I tell you, all the polls, I don't care if they come from the right or the left. I take them with a grain of salt, even from the best names out there. I take them with a grain of salt, but they're really fun to talk about. They'll have to prove themselves in 2024 or some of the special elections that are occurring this year in 2023. All right. So, all right. One, Trump is ahead in the Real Clear polling averages, just a point behind in a polling average reported by Nate Kahn, he says. And again, he says it is early, but these results are not nothing, meaning even though it's early, we should still be concerned as Democrats, he's saying. He says we're talking about a candidate who is very, very well known to the public. Speaking of Trump, warts and all. So Trump is a known quantity and he's still polling well. He says, but that is not translating into a big advantage for Biden, despite Trump's warts. All right. Now, here's what he goes on to say. Trump has a low favorability rating, but so does Biden. And that's the problem. And in some polls, Trump's favorability rating, he says, is slightly higher. In the latest Wall Street Journal poll, he talks about Trump's retrospective approval rating of 48% is actually higher than Biden's current approval rating of 42%. And now we know that Biden's overall approval rating is down to 36%, indicating, he says, surprising residual strength for a third Trump candidacy. So these fools are getting worried. Number 3, because I want to bring you some hope today. Guys, listen. We have to flood the zone in 2024. Yes, I do here on the Carl Jackson Show podcast. I do talk about some of the issues that are at play, some of the things that we have to get right. We all have to get involved in the game, whether it's registering voters, donating money. You have to do even more than you did in 2022. But we can win. We just have to be proactive starting now. Tell people about things that are going on in the country that weren't going on, that are bad. Vocalize it. Even some of us don't vocalize it. And I think we take that for granted. But he said Biden and the Democrats, he talks about the favorability rating. Again, Trump can pull it off because Biden's numbers are lower than Trump's. Biden and the Democrats have not moved to the center on cultural issues. And he believes this is going to be a big problem. Biden and the Democrats, he says, seem to be operating under the questionable assumption that they don't need to draw any line whatsoever against the cultural extremists within the Democrat Party. This is a left-winger saying, listen, we've got some nut jobs in our party. He says this calculation overlooks the fact that voters think Democrats and Republicans are equally too tolerant of extremist groups in their ranks. Now, frankly, I don't believe there's such thing as a Republican extremist. Frankly, a lot of our Republicans are straight up weak, and I don't know what's extreme about wanting the rule of law, liking babies, liking free speech and the Constitution, liking to keep more of the money that you go out and work for, liking a closed border, a secure border where legal immigrants come in. I don't know what's wrong or extreme about liking a strong military or what's extreme about energy independence. So I don't believe that Republicans are extreme, but this is the way. This is what the left believes. All right, they believe that we're extreme if we like babies and we don't want our kids mutilated. So that's extreme to the left. All right, nonsense to me, but that is what they believe. I'm reading from a left winger. All right. So. But he says this calculation overlooks the facts that voters think Democrats and Republicans are equally too tolerant of extremist groups in their ranks. He says that means the Biden campaign will need to contend throughout the election season with a burgeoning backlash, a growing backlash against lax enforcement on crime. This is what they're seeing in places like New York City, in San Francisco, in Chicago. People are getting sick and tired of it, and they're leaving these blue cities. Illegal immigration. Biden cannot continue to hide the illegal immigration problem, especially when you have people like Mayor Eric Adams out there saying this is a major problem in our city. Even though he's only getting a handful compared to what Texas is being bombarded with. Ideological curricula in the schools. That means more parents are going to be standing up against the left. These are things that he's concerned about. Undermining of academic achievement standards. So people getting better jobs, getting better educations are allowed in the schools simply because of the color of their skin, or what's between their legs, rather than their scholastic ability. The introduction of mandatory politically approved vocabulary. This is a big deal, he says. He says a lot of people, even on the left, are annoyed with the extremists of their party, as he sees it, with all this woke terminology and all this stuff. The proliferation of DEI and CRT and the growing bureaucracy, the unvetted mainstreaming of gender-affirming care. I love the way he put that, actually. Unvetted mainstreaming of gender-affirming care. See, we're in the middle of the battle. Those of us that talk politics all the time, we look at this trans issue and we're like, man, why aren't people outraged about it? And we exist in a bubble kind of too, all right? Not in the same way that the left exists in a bubble. We exist in the bubble on the right when it comes to politics. We're so involved in politics. We think politics all day long. I certainly do. I admit it. And we look at the cultural issues, we look at the political issues, and we're like, this is crazy. This is insane. How come people are tolerating this? The truth is, the vast majority of Americans aren't paying attention yet. They're really not. They're just trying to live their life. And they see this trans issue or they see this issue and they figure it'll all fade away eventually, but they're not going to get involved in it until election time. That's just the way they are. Republicans, he said, are now widely preferred by Democrats on immigration and on crime. They have reduced the traditional Democratic advantage on education. Democrats used to be the go-to people for education, not so anymore. People like Ron DeSantis that are giving people, Governor Ron DeSantis, or that are giving people school choice options. I believe there should be more trade school options. I believe there should more options, the better, frankly. And they're set to take advantage of a conservative turn among the public on trans issues. So again, he's saying this gender affirming care, Democrats haven't vetted this issue in mainstream society. He says there is a middle ground on all these areas, but Democrats are resisting it. He said, witness, check this out. Because Joe Biden wanted to turn back towards the center on some issues, but he said, look at the outrage, witness the fierce intra-party reaction to Biden's modest attempts to move to the center on crime by supporting an override of the new D.C. law that reduced penalties for carjacking. And he says also, consider this example, that he might to his suggestion that he might resume detention of migrant families who enter the U.S. illegally. He got so much pushback from the left. He was like, this is insane. And the left won't let the Democrat Party go back to a middle ground. The fourth issue he talks about why Biden could lose. And again, just to review, the number one issue is Biden is an extraordinarily weak candidate. Number two that I went over, Trump may be a stronger opponent than Democrats expect. Number three, Biden and the Democrats have not moved to the center on cultural issues, which I just finished up. Number four, abortion may not be the silver bullet that many Democrats assume it will be in 2024. I want to speak to this because Republicans get, oh my God, yeah, abortion had this effect on the election in 2022. If we keep talking about abortion, we're going to lose. You know what? Damn it. Listen, if we're going to lose on abortion for saving babies' lives, then let's freaking lose. For God's sakes, at least we save the morality of the country and it doesn't go to hell with gasoline draws on them. So sick and tired of weak behind conservatives that can't even defend babies. Makes me sick to my stomach. Now, having said that, I digress. But the left is worried about this. He's worried about this. He says there's a serious tendency for Democrats to overinterpret the results from 2022 and 2023. Again, what they did in Pennsylvania and I believe Michigan and Wisconsin, they did micro-targeting, meaning the Democrats looked at people that should be voting, that weren't voting, or girls that were on college campuses, and they said, you know what, abortion, right, or abortion rights. These girls, these white liberals mostly, get all hot and bothered and like, oh my God, Republicans are evil. And then Democrat Party says, here, you haven't voted. I found you. Here's your ballot. Let's fill this bad boy out. It's micro-targeting. Even if some of these people get hot and bothered, all right, if they don't micro-target them, if they don't go and ballot harvest, they don't necessarily win. And this is what the right doesn't get. All right, abortion or the Roe v. Wade being overturned is now the law of the land, but states have different issues, right? States can do it differently. So what the right has to do is start arguing for the rights of the state and what every state is doing. I know here in Florida now it's the heartbeat bill. You can't kill a baby in the mother's womb once you realize there is a heartbeat. Once there's a detectable heartbeat, there's in the cases of rape, incest, stuff like that, there is an exception to that rule. That's what they signed into law in Florida. All right, but he says abortion isn't a silver bullet. He says a high turnout to overinterpret the results from 2022 and 2023 and map that overinterpretation onto a high turnout presidential election is just not smart. He says it may be a factor in Biden's favor, but the idea that it will override other issues and deliver certain victory is wishful thinking. In other words, the Democrats can easily micro-target issues, right? In targeted races in the midterm election when there's lower voter turnout. But there's going to be more people that, where abortion, this issue may be further in the rear, or will be further in the rear view mirror, where they'll say, wait a minute, we've got crime, we've got the economy. There's many more issues to vote on, in other words. He says, it's well to remember that American voters, by and large, are moderate on the abortion issue and don't support abortion on demand throughout pregnancy. And Democrats are forgetting this because they haven't vetted mainstream voters yet. Very smart column. 5, there is a working class size hole in Biden's reelect strategy. Again, very important point. He says that brings us to perhaps the biggest problem. Biden may have matching up with Trump. I'm not sure what he says there. Biden's opening video and the general message from his nascent campaign is very heavy on democracy issues, abortion rights, denouncing MAGA extremists, he says. It is fair to say that this message is going to play well amongst college-educated voters. The campaign is clearly targeting, he says. He says the problem, though, is that working-class voters are much more numerous than their college-educated counterparts. This is why the left wants more people in college. It's for brainwashing. It's as simple as that. So he says a reasonable guess is that as a group, they will be half, again, as large as college voters in 2024. That means that slippage in the working class vote can have an on-size effect on the outcome. All right. So when the economy is hurting, when people are hurting, I thought they would do this in 2022. Apparently, they hadn't experienced enough pain yet, but it looks like a recession is looming. Their dollar is worth less. We had another interest rate hike from the Fed. People are going to vote pocketbook. They are going to look at pocketbook again. He says in 2020, Trump carried the overall working class by 4 points. In 2022, Republicans carried the nationwide House by 13 points. Right. So we got a lot of people that showed up, just not in the right areas. It was the weirdest thing. So if Trump replicated that 2022 margin in 2024, he would be very hard to beat. He even goes on to say, absent a countervailing Democratic improvement in the college vote, which the Democrats already carried by 18 points in 2020, Trump would likely carry Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and even Michigan. They have to win the college-educated vote by 30 points, he believes, in order for Biden to win in 2024. He says since Trump is regularly showing double-digit advantages among working-class voters in trial heats and has a proven track record in attracting working-class support, the challenge for Biden's campaign is clear. They must at all costs prevent the kind of working-class slippage, as he calls it, that could put Trump back into the Oval Office. He says this is the mistake that Hillary Clinton made in 2016 or 2015, neglecting the working class American. So again, 5 reasons why Biden could lose in 2024. He's an extraordinarily weak candidate. Trump may be a stronger opponent than Democrats expect. Biden and the Democrats have not moved to the center on cultural issues. That was number 3. Number 4, abortion may not be the silver bullet many Democrats assume it will be in 2024. Number 5, there is a working class size hole in Biden's re-elect strategy. A good column by Ruy Texeira. Again, he is a lefty, but the guy is a clear thinker. He's very smart. And I appreciate reading his stuff from the left, honestly. He gives me better insight than most. He and David Axelrod. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Again, subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. Please subscribe if you want to view the podcast to our Rumble channel, to our YouTube channel, thecarljacksonshow.com. Don't forget our sponsors, mypillow.com and also Birch Gold Group. Text Carl to 989898, Birch Gold Group. Get your free info kit there. But we appreciate you tuning in. Again, social media, The Carl Jackson Show, YouTube, Rumble, The Carl Jackson Show, anywhere where you get your podcast. Please subscribe. It's going to help us grow. It's going to help spread freedom. Until next time, guys, do not grow weary doing good. God bless.